So today we're going to look at linear equations, and an overview. We're going to just revise some grade 9 work, and then we're going to start with equations that has fractions, and then finally also equations that has fractions but have multiple terms in the denominator. So in the first example, 1a, now this is just a normal linear equation, and it's easy to identify since all the x's are just to the power of 1. Now the first thing I want to do is just get rid of the brackets. So I'm simply going to take the number or the value that's in front of the bracket and multiply it into each term. And same here, just remember the negative also has to go in there. This will then give me 5 minus 15x minus 20 plus 2x, when a negative times a negative, equals to negative 10x. Right, and then we want to get all the, with linear equations, we always want to get the x's on the one side and the constants on the other side. So this side we've got negative 15x, and then plus 2x. This 10 comes over. When I take it over, the sign changes, so plus 10x. And then on this side, we want all the constants. So 5 comes over, it becomes negative 5. And negative 20 comes over, it becomes positive 20. We add all our like terms. This is negative 15 plus 2 plus 10, so that gives us negative 3x equals to, and this is positive 15. We divide both sides by the coefficients, and then we have that x is equal to negative 5. Okay, so let's follow the same steps with this example. We start off by getting rid of our brackets by multiplying in the value in front of the bracket. So here we have negative 3x plus 3 equals to 12 minus 3x minus 9. And taking all our x's to the one side, we have minus 3x plus 3x equals to 12 minus 9 minus 3. In this case, if I add my like terms, I have 0 equal to 0. Now in this special case, if we have something that says the equal like 0 equals 0 or 3 equals 3, in this case what happens is that your value of x, the answer for x, is all the real numbers. So we can just end up and say that x is an element of a real number where all of the values for x will actually satisfy this equation. All of the values will be valid. Okay, and once again we follow the same steps, multiplying in the 5 here, the negative 2 here, and the 3 over here. So we have 5x minus 10 minus 2x minus 2 equals to 3x minus 15. And then we are going to take all our like terms to the one side, so or all our x's, 5x minus 2x minus 3x equals to negative 15 plus 10 plus 2. So here we have 0 equal to, and then over here we have negative 3. So in this case we have 0 equal to negative 3, which is not true. 0 cannot be equal to negative 3. And if this ever happens, then you have that there is no solution. Okay, so those were linear equations. Now to move on to equations that have fractions. In this case, we want to, or actually all the cases where we have fractions, we want to get rid of the fractions as soon as possible. Now the easy way of doing it is, if I once again like adding fractions, just get my lowest common denominator. And in this case, between 2 and 4, our lowest common denominator is 4. So what I do is, there's two ways actually. The first way is you can actually start and get everybody over the lowest common denominator like we did with adding fractions. Although I find an easier way is just to simply take each and every term. Doesn't matter what the denominator is, just multiply each and every term with the lowest common denominator. Because if you do that, you are then going to cancel, and everything in the denominator will cancel. So if we have 2 goes into itself once, and in 4 2 times, and then 4 and 4 cancels. And there we've immediately eliminated our fractions. So what is left now is we've got 2 times by 10y minus 1. This 2 is the 2 that was left when I cancelled, is equal to 4 times by 7y plus 1. And this is now basically where we were at with the previous linear equations, where we simply have to multiply out the brackets. So I have 20y minus 2 equals to 28y plus 4. And then we just take our y's to the one side, so 20y and then minus 28y equals to 4 plus 2. And then we have negative 8y equals to 6, and divide both sides by negative 8. Then we have y equals to 6 over negative 8. And we can further simplify this, and then it would become 3, because 2 can go in top and bottom. So this becomes negative 3 over 4. Okay, so in this case, let's start off by getting the lowest common denominator. And between 2 and 4, it's 4. And then we also have an x. So if I start by multiplying each and every term by my lowest common denominator, then I start cancelling. So 2 can go into itself once and into 4 2 times. The x and the x will cancel. Here the 4 and the 4 will cancel. And over here the x and the x will cancel. Now let's write down what is left. Over here we've got 3 times 2 basically, so that's 6, minus 1 times x, so that's just negative x, is equal to 6 times 4, which is 24. Right, so let's take the constant over to the other side. So if negative x equals to 24 minus 6, so negative x is equal to 18, and therefore x is equal to negative 18 when I divide negative 1 on both sides. Alright, so that was the fractions. Now let's move on to the final section. Now in this case, we are basically going to follow exactly the same steps as we did previously. We just now have a bit more of a complicated denominators. So our lowest common denominator between these are a 2, we've got a 2 there, and then we've got x plus 2, and then x minus 4. Right, so let's start by just multiplying each and every term of that, x plus 2, and then x minus 4, and then also once again times 2, x plus 2, and x minus 4. Right, so let's start by let's now cancel. So x plus 2 and x plus 2 goes, x minus 4 and x minus 4 goes. Then here we have 2 and 2, and x minus 4 and x minus 4. Now write down what is left. We've got 2 times by this, so 2x minus 5, and then that's equal to just 1 times by x plus 2. So we just have x plus 2. Multiply out the 2. We've got 4x minus 10 equals to x plus 2. And then we just take all the x terms, the terms that contain x, to the left hand side. So 4x minus x, and our constants to the right hand side. So 2 plus 10. And then we have 3x equals to 12. So we divide both sides by 3. And we are left with x equal to 4. Alright, now in this case, if we look at our denominators, we have x minus 1, 1 minus x, and x minus 1. Now we can say our lowest common denominator is x minus 1 and 1 minus x, but that would not be the easiest way by far. First of all, we can actually swap these two around. But just be careful, if you swap two terms around and there's a negative between them, you have to change the sign over here. So in the first step, we're just going to say, okay, 4 over x minus 1 minus 3 over x minus 1 equals to 2x over x minus 1. So if this was a plus, you could just swap them around. But because this is a negative, you have to change the sign in front of the term. Alright, so now this is quite easy. Lowest common denominator is just simply going to be x minus 1. And we can either just drop the denominators, or we can just follow our normal method and multiply each term with the lowest common denominator. And then cancel. So if I just put these guys in brackets, we just cancel top and bottom, that one and that one, that one and that one, that one and that one. So we have 4 minus 3 is equal to 2x. Now it actually looks like a very simple sum or equation. So this now becomes 1 equals to 2x. So x is then equal to a half. That's when I divide both sides by 2. Alright, now for this final example, here we have to actually, before we can get the lowest common denominator, we have to get everyone in their factors first, because we can see this is a trinomial, and we can try and actually factorize that to get it into its factors. So if we have 6, we want to get the factors of 6. That's 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. And then to get negative 1, I'm going to say plus 2 and minus 3. So to factorize that, that's just going to be my first step. So 3x minus 2 over x plus 2 and x minus 3. Now if we move on, we can see here we have 2 plus x. Now just to make it identical to one of the other factors, here we have x plus 2. So I'm just going to swap these two around. Then we have x over x plus 2. And then here we have 3 minus x, which I'm going to change into x minus 3. But it's got a negative in between the two terms, so we're going to change this sign, minus x over x minus 3. Okay, so now it's much easier to see what the lowest common denominator is, because we've got a x plus 2 to take into account, and we also have a x minus 3. So let's start by multiplying through with that. X plus 2, x minus 3, and then times x plus 2, x minus 3. And just a side note here, when we add fractions, we have to multiply top and bottom, because what you do at the top, you do at the bottom. But in this case, we're working with equations where we have an equal sign in our equation. And in this case, we can just multiply the top parts, because what we do on the left-hand side, we're doing on the right-hand side. And that's why we only have to, we are allowed to only multiply the numerators. Whereas if it's just an expression without an equal sign, you have to do top and bottom. So x plus 2 and then x minus 3. Okay, so let's start by cancelling. So these guys cancel completely. And then x plus 2 cancels, and we've got x minus 3. That cancels. So what is left is then 3x minus 2 equals to x times by x minus 3, and then minus x times by x plus 2. And then multiplying out these brackets, we have 3x minus 2 equals 2. So this goes in, we've got x squared minus 3x, and then minus x squared minus 2. Now we can see there's an x squared here, and luckily x squared minus x squared is 0, so these guys cancel out. Otherwise it would have been a quadratic equation, but since these guys cancel out, we're just back onto a linear equation again. Now taking all our x terms to the left hand side, 3x plus 3x equals to minus 2 plus 2. Okay, so 3x plus 3x is going to give us, oh wait, this must have been x, this should have been x. Okay, so this goes in, it's x, so this goes back, let's just erase that. Okay, so this goes over, it becomes plus 2x equal to, and this comes over, it becomes 2. Okay, so we have 3 plus 3 is 6 plus 2 is 8x. it's 8x, and then that's equal to 2. We divide both sides by 8, so x is equal to 2 over 8, and then we can just simplify it to 1 over 4. Right, so this means we are finally done, and then that's it for the linear equations.